Okay.
Recording is in progress.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew, very much for hosting us one more week here in the Global Unity Network, as we are having our Indigenous Global Unity Summit event every Thursday. This is week 97 of our Global Unity Summit. We have Shashidir Bat. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I'm sure I'll get corrected. But I do like to start all of these sessions with a land acknowledgement. So I say this at the beginning of our sessions. It's very important for us to acknowledge, especially the Indigenous peoples who came before us on this land. So we begin today by acknowledging that we walk upon the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples. We recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land. We're grateful to all Indigenous groups for their commitment to protect the land and its resources. We're committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on here in the Greater Toronto Area is the traditional territory of many nations, and the lands, and on these lands known as Tikaranto, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Wendat, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples, and it is now home to many diverse peoples. We'd also like to acknowledge the land we are on here is at the meeting place of two treaties, the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and those of the First Nations of the Williams Treaty. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 and it's subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. And we also acknowledge the Two-Row Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Six Nations of the Tikaranto watershed and the settlers, an agreement that bound them to work together, but to develop their societies in parallel on these shared lands. In our role as settlers and displaced people on this land, we share the responsibility of challenging and disrupting colonial systems that enact violence upon the land and stand in solidarity with Indigenous peoples. We'd like to thank the Indigenous peoples of these lands, including First Nations, Inuit, and Métis, for sharing this land with us. We also acknowledge and recognize all of the world's Indigenous peoples as stewards of Mother Earth. As such, we seek to share their consciousness and use the global momentum of these words to help unite them beyond their time zones, watersheds, and jet streams, because we are all treaty people, and consciousness only has a trajectory. So I'd like to say as well for our friends in Africa, Asante Sana, or thank you very much in Swahili. Thank you for joining us today for this IGU Summit event. I also like to say Sawubona, which means I see you, I see myself in you, I see my hopes, your dreams, and your struggles. I see your ancestors as well, because interconnectedness does not end with two people who are greeting each other. It extends to include the ancestors. All beings and Mother Nature are interconnected. There is no sense of being separate. I see myself in all beings, and therefore, if I harm other beings or Mother Nature, it translates into harming myself. So today is Thursday, April 13th, 2023, again, week 97 of our IGU Summit series. As always, I like to start with an introduction of who I am, who we are, and what we do. The overall purpose of UnityNet is to establish a global network of community Unity Garden learning centers where hybrid exchange programs and practical learning will be delivered by the members of UnityNet's partners in all members of the GP4RD, our learning partnership for global unity. The learning programs are intended to be delivered through the Global Sister Schools program in partnership with the members of the Global Unity Network. We do that by twinning the local INAB collaborative communities through the CTP program of our Science for Peace Drawdown Markham Community Climate Action Hub, which has a goal of building holistic regenerative climate smart communities here in the Greater Toronto bioregion in support of the UnityNet and AHIABGA project of globalization of global goals, and the establishment of a globalized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. Another thing I'd like to note as well is that at the end of March, Pope Francis effectively rescinded the papal bulls, or at least took the doctrine of discovery off the table when it comes to lawmaking in the eyes of those who follow the Church's teachings, also in the eyes of many Indigenous people. So this is huge. I do like to share some of the networks that we have, in particular the Collaborative Exchange Program through Drawdown Markham. As well, there is some information in the chat about the news from the Vatican recently rejecting the doctrine of discovery. There's also a related network that we had created called the Practical Reconciliation Network. So as we move forward, I'm showing this graphic, which was made just a couple of weeks ago. We'd like to build a national network of researchers, developers, and educators, especially for the globalization of the global goals, with the priority actions focused on regenerative development or regenerative living and lifestyles, which includes regenerative infrastructure and regenerative finance. For us here in UnityNet Canada and UnityNet Ontario, both the Greater Toronto area and the Ottawa Valley, the city of Ottawa being the capital of our country and where national decisions are made, are also going to be very important hubs of activity, especially around the delivery of the local solutions for achieving sustainable energy for all, regenerative housing, shelter, and habitat for all, as well as regenerative food for all, through our global partnership ecosystem. That's helping to demonstrate and achieve holistic, healthy communities for all. But the specific areas of focus for UnityNet are renewable energy, including sustainable agriculture, regenerative farming, and food production, grown the regenerative climate smart way, along with regenerative water management, regenerative waste management, or circular economy solutions for the purpose of economic growth and expansion, but specifically done the regenerative climate smart way, along with the supporting integrated localized habitat solutions for regenerative holistic living, learning, and lifestyle developments or redevelopments that help to achieve a localized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. Because within such a development paradigm, it should be possible to continue to achieve economic growth at the same time as we repair our planet, as we continue along the pathway of figuring out how to create a robust and resilient and equitable economic system that does not require continuous and expanding extraction and degradation of ecosystems to survive, and to be both stable and sustainable and leave no one behind. So this was the first 2 pages of the introduction. I will or could potentially continue with the opening of the IGU Summit event. I have many, many more pages for the presentation, but at this time I will pass along to allow Shashidhar Bhatt, our guest speaker, to speak today and do his own presentation. So I'm going to stop my share, and if you have anything to share with us, Shashidhar, please share your own screen. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope this screen is visible. It's loaded now.
It is. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm gonna mute myself and I'll let you go through your presentation at this point.
Yeah. Thank you, Lloyd, and thank you for everyone joining here. Indeed, I'm learning. This is my first presence in the network. So I try to align with the framework you have already defined and the journey you have progressed. I really appreciate as a global platform to work for a noble cause with a bigger objective to achieve in the coming days. So let me focus on what I'm doing currently, and probably after completing the presentation, we can get into interactions, how to adopt, how to use such knowledge, such programs at different scenarios, whichever is useful, applicable, and meaningful to the people there. So my name is Shashidhar Bhatt. As you pronounced it rightly. Please feel free to stop me anywhere if I'm stretching the session too long, or if my pronunciation is not comfortable with you people. We'll try to change it according to the audience here. So the program Gardening as a Learning Tool is the actual session for today. Like Lloyd, I'm also a techie. Like after 10 plus 2 plus 4 years of education, the last 4 years, it's a college university degree. It's engineering in computer science course. So I worked in IT telecom industry for almost 14, 15 years. A recent 5-6 years, I started transforming from an employee to entrepreneur. That is where I bumped into the concept called gig economy, GIG, gig economy. Gig economy is an alternate to 9-to-5 jobs. Basically, worldwide, employment is an issue, especially the countries like India. Every year, 2 crore is 20 million. 20 million people turn 18 years of age. What does it mean? It translates that 20 million people have to be provided with employment every year. That is the size, that is the mammoth challenge to the country. Government, of course, cannot do this job. And even the private industries these days, they themselves are directionless. The emerging technologies disrupting almost every industry, what we have experienced in the earlier decade. Because of that, employment is an issue. The connect between workforce and the industry is in a bad scenario. That is where gig economy, on-demand economy, shared economy, whichever the name you call it as, people also call it as a platform economy. I started working with that concept because this is the solution to engage a large number of youth, the educated mothers, retired healthy people, at the age of 60, if they retire, still another 25-30 years because of increased longevity, what will they do? Also, we need to engage a different segment of the human workforce. That is where gig economy came as a handy tool for me. I addressed both urban audience, urban workforce, as well as in the recent years, I went to the rural districts to understand what can be done in gig economy as a tool to engage the workforce, and which can be productive every hour of the talent what we have, the human resource what we have, can be translated into productivity. As a result, gardening as a learning tool, one of the program, I have dozen such activities under a different scenario, under different collaboration and engagement. But this is one of my favorite program, gardening as a learning tool, which I am explaining it now through these slides. So in nutshell, gardening as a learning tool is about growing plants. While growing the plants, the participants are expected to observe the nature, surroundings, environment. They are expected to do a bit of research, then document both their activities as well as their learning part. It's not that enough. Instead, they are also expected to showcase to the world that whatever they have learned it as a presentation or through any other medium. It could be rich media like video or photo or or any other tools. So whom we engage here in this program is naturally students. Then students are affiliated to different schools. So schools play a role as a facilitator. And for me, the education of students, always parents are very critical stakeholders. That is where we would like to have something for parents as well to make it more meaningful, more engaging. The objectives, there are 3 dimensions. One is school subject. A lot of curriculum in the school, they theoretically, they learn the concepts of physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology, but the laboratory, the practical aspects are very limited. The school labs for physics or chemistry is limited with a few set of instruments, equipments, and in a small room. So the practical classes are hardly 2 sessions per week, not more than that. So changing this scenario from theoretical learning to the practical aspects, gardening as a learning tool becomes an experiential learning methodology or an approach to connect with the concepts of physics, chemistry, mathematics. Anyway, they learn in theory, and that way, whatever theoretical learning is reinforced here is become a experiential learning which will last for very long time, maybe during their lifetime. The second dimension we are addressing is life lessons. Unfortunately, school curriculum is not covering much of the life lessons, things like how to be calm, how to be patient, how to be kind with the other creatures on the earth, and many more life skills. So these skills which are required, but schools have tough time to accommodate these life lessons. So assessment of what they have learned and grading or translating into the score in these subjects are very, very difficult, and thereby these life lessons are somewhat neglected by the schools. The third dimension is future readiness. We live in a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world. And today it is more realized, more experienced by everyone, all of us, that the future is very, very complex. The future is uncertain. Now, if the school-going children are groomed, are taught within the comfort zone, they never come out of such mindset, such framework, and thereby, by the time they graduate from college or university, it is difficult to adapt to the real world practical situations where they have to solve problems, where they have to face uncertainties. So gardening as a learning tool is an experience for them. They understand that growing a plant in a container is not an easy job. It is uncertain. It is a complex task. Though it looks very simple, but it is not. Let them experience it, let them learn. And that is where probably as a micro conversion, they gradually prepare themselves. Their mindset will be, tuned to the real world problems and the complexities what they face. This particular slide expanding the objectives part, I have also narrated that the school curriculum, unfortunately, is the simplest thing what they have picked up just for the making it easy. It's kind of a spoon feeding to the children, and if the children they do not understand, they are put into the tuitions. It's almost like the school going children are not at all burdened with the learning aspect. Instead, everything is fed it to their brain, their cognitive abilities so easily that they lose their capability to think critically. Just to give an illustration, the shapes, for example, shapes, the school teach about triangle, circle, rectangle, square. In the real world, nothing is a triangle, nothing is a square there. If you look at a tree, if you look at a leaf, if you look at anything outside, all nature-made objects, all nature-made surroundings, it is not a perfect geometrical shape at all. Now, if you ask a school-going children, or for that matter, even the teacher, to measure the area of a leaf, it is not a triangle, it is not a rectangle, it is a complex shape. So there is a clear disconnect between what is being taught in the school and the real world, right? So I have taken this as one of the objectives. Then, of course, I have explained the life lessons and even the future readiness. For that matter, things like cognitive abilities, problem-solving skills, critical thinking, and even the gardening as a learning tool will improve the creativity of the participants. And thereby, we achieve not only the short-term objectives, but the long-term, the lifelong values are created by the program. In short, what we do in gardening as a learning tool is we give them a challenge. The challenge is the participants are given a time-bound activity to grow the plant from a seed to harvest cycle in a single container. And in doing so, it is not given as a a very rigid learning curriculum. Instead, this is translated as the joy of little things, their activity every day at their own place, at their own comfort environment at home. They keep learning, and it is so joyful that everyone enjoys that. The children enjoy and their parents enjoy. Of course, schools can facilitate the entire program. They can monitor, they can enable, and they can give them a platform to make it happen there. Before I present it to the world, we did a pilot execution of this program during academic year 2021-22. Of course, it was the COVID, the second wave period in India. There was a school, rural school, 8th and 9th grade students from a English medium school. 150 of them are given a container. This is a special container we have given called areca pot. Basically, it's a natural wood container, what we have picked up as a eco-friendly alternative to the plastics and ceramics. We are against the plastic and ceramics there. So these containers, students participated during 4 months of period. They have grown, each one of them have grown. We have given them freedom and flexibility to pick up the choice of plant, whatever they feel like, and they did it. Some of them have failed, but that is a part of the learning. They failed, they planted a new seed and they have grown it up again. Similar engagements, we did it in smaller kids as well. Now, actually, 12 to 18 years is the right age where students can do these activities of their own. But if the kids are lesser than 12 years, they have to be assisted. It can be a guided program, guided by the parents or the teachers. So with that, we are presenting this program to the world. It's a fair price. I do not believe in charity. Such programs cannot go free of cost unless beneficiaries demand it and there is a donor who can meet their demands. Otherwise, a very nominal price. For student engagement, we have fixed up X amount for schools per incident. Then for parents, it's a annual engagement. We continue with them growing the plants, etc. Of course, the commercial aspects are very flexible, and these are the custom solutions to the individual groups, any part of the world. So what happens is during 4 weeks, once they join, we onboard them. We use a hybrid model of delivering our contents, bite-sized contents, which will go to them through virtual groups like WhatsApp or Telegram. Every day, 15 minutes to 20 minutes activity we are expecting based on the feed which goes to them, navigating through the growth cycle of the plant. And by end of 21 weeks, they have certain outcomes aligning to the objectives what we have defined. So as a program, as a meaningful program aligned to sustainable development goals, we also make provisions for corporates, organizations, or individual working professionals to involve in this program directly or indirectly. We accommodate because more and more helping hands can take this program to wider and stronger. So with that objective, the proposition of the program is concluded. Just to illustrate quickly what has been covered in the program, Gardening as a Learning Tool, is randomly I have picked up a few of the lessons. Of course, those are not taught in the schools. It is not part of the regular curriculum. The first part, farmer, and a time-bound activity. Farm is a single container. In this picture, it is a clay-based container. Farmer, of course, goes through a difficult, activity in the real field. But when a student acts as a farmer, he is experiencing the pain of a real farmer. So we have packaged it to experience it in 21 weeks with one goal, but there are many lessons. So gardening as a tool, participants are given and the challenges are explained already. Now, bullying is a common problem in schools. Bullying, isolation, rejections, in a batch of say 30 students, at least a handful of them are depressed kind. They are always cornered, they are always isolated, they are always unhappy in the classroom. So gardening as a learning tool can give them strength to be with the rest of the crowd, to conquer their own weakness and stay strong all along their student journey. So this is one psychological aspect we are covering. Then how do the schools treat failure among the students? In a class of say 30 students, they grade them. Sometimes it's a ranking, first rank, second rank, third rank, but a bunch of students are left out and they fall back. So how do teachers handle this? How do the school management handle this? Of course, in the name of rewarding the performance, the non-performers are always having a trouble. Now, gardening as a learning tool becomes very handy to tackle this social issue in the school. As I said, these are the random lessons. These are not in the sequence what I wanted to accommodate in the program. So the third slide talks about the complex real world as against the spoon feeding the young minds. Then in this I have taken up a very interesting aspect, relationship with another life. Of course, people learn language when they are in a hostel, when they are studying together in a group, or when they are traveling together, the travel mates, etc. So plants, actually, they are the life companions. They do have their own language. When you start a gardening activity, you are talking to the plants. You learn the language of plants. It's a new language, and it's a very soothing that it gives a comfort. Many families, especially in urban area, of course, in the rural area also, they keep pets. They have cats, dogs, cows, etc. But these plants are also equally interactive. If you learn how to talk to them, they will listen to you, they will interact with you. This is what we highlight in our program as well. Then joy of little things I have already explained. This is how the confidence building, the psychological strength is been built up through the program. Then the next is bring home the colors to the balcony. Of course, just like a shape example I gave, colors are also, red, blue, green, the standard colors are being taught in the school. But real world, we have the magical expressions of the nature. Now, how do you explain this beauty, the beauty of colors? Now, this is what can be learned through gardening as a learning tool. So I'll quickly scan through the rest of the slides, because the copy of this presentation will be made available to all of you. Of course, this is already there with Mr. Lloyd, and this can be shared in the group as well. So as a reference to everyone, not only those who are participating here. It can also go into the social media and rest of the networks. So with this presentation, as I said, gardening as a learning tool is an innovative program which can be customized to the local scenario, which can be delivered any part of the world in a hybrid mode. Hybrid means the physical activities, actual real world activities are happening at their own place, whereas the learning is delivered through the online, the virtual groups. So the mentors, the teachers, subject matter experts can be from anywhere, any part of the world. So if it is facilitated by the school or any open group, then we are expecting that at least one or two coordinators, local coordinators, who actually know the audience are to be involved in the program. That will bring or translate the entire program into much more effective and much more useful to the audience. So with this, let me stop my presentation. I hope you could grasp my words, my explanation. If at all you need more insights into this or any clarifications or questions, I'm open to you. Thank you.
So thank you very much. That was actually excellent. It was actually more than I expected that would be included in that. What you've done is just amazing in terms of addressing so many of the issues that we've been talking about for at least the past year. Through these discussions, we've been having these weekly discussions about the emotional, social, mental, and other things that schools are not addressing, and the curriculums are not addressing, and all of these social, emotional issues, and the angst and the fact that the grading system of the schools that ends up lifting some children up to great heights, but leaving so many others behind. And this program that you've developed that can address so much of this, and involving the parents and involving the whole community potentially, beyond just the teacher and the students, right? Involving the parents, the grandparents, even the whole family, right? In this learning process. And I think this is an absolutely excellent tool that I'm hoping that we can really, I'd like to work with our 4K clubs and the UnityNet learning programs to integrate this. Hopefully we can bring it to local communities around the world. So are there any other people on the call today that would like to ask some questions, make some comments? I'm thinking or hoping that Lisa Anise might be able to introduce herself at least, and maybe Charles. Good to see you on the call today, Charles. Patrick, who's in Malawi in Africa.
Okay. Yes, I'm here.
So am I, if only for a few minutes.
Yeah. No, well, did you want to go ahead and just say a few words, since you'll probably be needing to leave, Lisa Anise, within 10 minutes or so?
Yes, I'm happy to do so. My name's Lisa Anise Sutphin. I'm a member of the International Dance Council Division of UNESCO. I was brought into this work due to my efforts to unify hip hop culture all around the world so that they may form an international coalition to run their own sport in the Olympics, which is breaking. Upon discovery that every single person that I knew in hip hop culture practiced agriculture in some way, shape, or form, I decided to use my experience with nonprofits to start to organize. And boy, is it keeping me busy.
Definitely, Lisa Anise is one of the busiest people in my sphere of communications. She has daily reports of multiple interviews every day with people who are members of our network and outside of our network as well. She has an extensive network.
Well, most of them are outside the network at the moment. Once they form their association partnerships or INAB collaboratives and sign their papers, then of course they'll be ushered in. So that's
well, we're working on that now, of course, to try to develop the partnerships here in the city of Markham to get that partnership, especially with the schools, so we can start the Global Sister Schools program, as we call it. So Shashidar, just to let you know that what we're doing essentially is establishing a global partnership of local partnerships.
Yes.
So the process we have of community engagement, these events that we do, are intended to create these local partnerships. So multi-stakeholder partnerships, we call the Interfaith Neighborhood Academic and Business Collaboratives. Once we create these formal local partnerships, we then partner between different communities, and it's done through the schools. So the schools come into this partnership, whether it's universities, colleges, high schools, public schools, grade schools, all the way down to kindergarten.
Very
all the
much
schools,
so.
school boards come in and to that partnership, and then we partner between those interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives. So we start with one here in Markham. Lisa Anise creates one in San Francisco. Somebody else creates one in Los Angeles. Another person creates it in like Patrick, he's in Malawi. And another person creates it in South Africa. Another person creates it in Kenya. You create one in India. Somebody else creates it in Sri Lanka. They create it themselves locally. And then we all come together and we share. And we share the tools for learning. And yours is one of the tools for learning.
Oh, very much so. Well, and what my job is I act as key for community-based organizations on the ground that wish to form these collaboratives, sensitizing them as to some of the skills that they will need as they come together as a group, because the most important thing that they have that creates a lot of power is the information that they gather about those they serve. Very valuable information. And I start to take them through those processes of making presentations and proposals to specific types of authority and what the protocols and procedures are. So lots of fun.
It's a very complex business, this one. I've never done anything even remotely close to this in my life. I thought electronics was a complex
Well, the fun part about this is that the structure that we're working to build is the very same structure that nonprofits use all over the planet. And that doesn't matter what their source is. The university structure is like this. Hospital and healthcare structures are like this. It's not just the basic service organizations, but usually all the areas of higher education, which follow this concept because it's much sturdier than corporate structures. And
it's not top down. It's I guess it's a little bit flat, but it's also what we're trying to do is build from the grassroots bottom up. It's shaped like a pyramid, and the most important parts are in the base. Those people on the ground. No one knows better than they do what it's really like. All right. With that, I am going to have to try to gather myself to go. It's our first classes in Oakland. That's going to take a while to get there. All right. Thank you. Oh, these are in-person classes, are they?
Yes, it's opening back up, and the city of Oakland asked me to return and teach at their large senior and veterans facility at Lake Merritt.
Thank you, Lisa.
Well, you are most welcome.
No, we have a new partner, I think, in what Shashidhar is doing, and this is just amazing, because what we always look for is content. So I've been building the platform, which is basically the network. So we have what we call a network of networks, all on social media right now. We're intending to move eventually to what we call a virtual collaborative network, which is a metaverse space. So we're going to work with, of course, the students and other organizations that do have some of those solutions already, but they are commercial solutions for the most part. So we will eventually need sponsorship and create partnerships with corporations in particular that have some of these platforms. But we do this through our process of community engagement. So we're working with another partner right now in Vancouver who has another system of corporate and community engagement as well. That aligns us with those the reporting on corporate social responsibility, or CSR, which most large corporations are now being either doing themselves voluntarily, or even in some cases being mandated to do. For instance, in Europe and the European Union, where they're starting to say, look, you need this corporate social responsibility reporting to be done. So this gentleman has a tool that facilitates that, and make it easier for these corporations to make those reports and put some concrete numbers on it as well, so they can now start comparing apples to apples across different CSR reports. So we can also eliminate some of the greenwashing or the whitewashing or whatever the reporting of these companies. So hopefully, Charles, I'm seeing you'd like to say a few words. You could have put up your little hand if you've used Zoom before. There's a little thing where you can, if you press reactions.
Okay, thank you, Lord. Yeah, I just want to thank you again. I know it's been a while since we spoke. I'm still currently in Kenya. I've traveled back to the US and Canada for a few weeks and still came back. I may be here for another, probably the rest of the year. But anyway, some good news I wanted to share with you. I think I already did that via WhatsApp in the chat group. So the last year and a half, I would say probably a little bit over 9 months, we've been working with a private equity firm based out of the US. We've been doing some work for them. And because of the success that we had with them, we decided to, actually they've decided to grant us a philanthropic financing facility for NGOs and civil societies. So what I wanted to introduce it is, to your network. I know you work with quite a number of groups involved in nonprofit organizations. So it's a very interesting facility. I think it's different than the normal ones that's currently used, which is, fundraising and the like. We offer a very strategic type of facility, which initially starts as a financing facility and converts into a grant. We have a threshold that I will be able to introduce to your network. We start at a minimum of $4 million, which is quite attractive for quite a number of NGOs, and it can go as high as $40 million. Now, this facility, in fact, was the way we set it up is that we signed an agreement with them, with the equity firm, and they've pledged 8% of the annual revenue to go towards this philanthropic facility. So they have an annual revenue of around, I would say around $80 billion. So that gives you an indication of the size of the philanthropic investment that what they want to do. So I look forward to really get together with you, share more information about it. And if you see that there's a fit, then we can move forward with that. So this is just a quick introduction to what I'm bringing to the table to your network. And if those that see it as valuable, then we can discuss the intricate of the details of this facility. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say.
Yes, thank you very much, Charles. And actually, this is also very good timing as well, I think, because we had recently started this conversation again locally here in Markham with an organization, the Seventh Generation Initiative. So the Seventh Generation GTB Markham. So that was actually created with myself and a gentleman by the Dr. Jose Echeverry from York University. So York University is establishing a brand new campus here in Markham. So they're the only university in our city. Of course, you probably know or have heard of York University. They have the campus in Toronto. So this is now a satellite campus where actually there's going to be, it's going to be the home of a number of organizations, including the UNESCO Center for Reorienting Education towards sustainability. So the chair, the global chairperson is there, or it's going to be here in Markham once they open the campus next year. So we are starting a conversation with this gentleman by the name of Brian Puppa, who's doing this GTB, the Greater Toronto Bioregion programs, working directly with people like Dr. Echeverry at York University. So we are hoping that through his conversations with a gentleman actually who's in South America, in Colombia, that we'll start talking about starting to demonstrate what we call regenerative finance. So this regenerative finance concept has been floated around. It's been put into different papers by different people as an economic theory, potential future. So we're hoping that as part of that paradigm, shifting the economic system over to something that can be what's called regenerative, where much of the investment actually of productive assets in local communities gets reinvested back into the local communities, but also where portions of that investment are then redistributed in such a way that they can help nearby or other communities that are being left behind. So this is the overarching concept of the regenerative finance. I don't think it's ever been done before, but our partner, the one that started the UnityNet finance network, is Carbon Shot Earth, and they're in Mississauga. So Mark Prasangi, who's our partner in UnityNet International, is the one that would like to showcase this regenerative financing. We'll have a follow-up conversation with him, Charles, to see how we can integrate this. As well, of course, a large part of our network has been all about engaging these local community NGOs, CSOs, and others in these, especially in these marginalized communities across Africa, right? So this is what we're doing, and that's a big part of what Andrew Networks does. So Andrew Williams Jr., who of course is hosting this, part of what they're doing is of course to engage all of these NGOs and CSOs in Africa to bring them to the table. And that's the rationale for creating the multi-stakeholder partnerships, so they have a seat at the table when decisions are being made about their own community. And so it's not just our elected leaders, it's not just the corporations with all the money, it's them sitting at that table making the decisions about the future of their own community. So we can have, again, as Elisa said, those grassroots people on the ground in those communities who know what the heck's going on with the people who are being marginalized, being left behind. So we can have that. And so something like what you have to offer, I think, is a great entry point for having us finance and really get these organizations that are there to actually help people off the ground, because that's a necessary part of the structure we're building.
Okay, sounds good then. So keep me posted. Let me know when I can join in to do a brief presentation. Our target initially for this year will be the North America market. I would say maybe the US and Canada, but eventually we have a strategy where these NGO based in the US, as they meet the requirement, they can support the activities overseas. So I'll give you more details once we meet up and discuss this.
Okay, so actually this is perfect as well. If the target is North America this year, I'm going to write that so I don't forget. The other thing we're doing, of course, this is the Indigenous Global Unity Summit event. So we are building an Indigenous Global Unity Network as well. And so actually just last week, we created something called the UnityNet Great Lakes Network. And the Great Lakes Network actually is being founded by some Indigenous peoples. So the idea, of course, is we are trying to engage in what we call the least developed countries, communities, and economies, so the LDCCEs. And so the idea is that those communities that are furthest left behind should be addressed. Their issues should be addressed first. This is the UN concept in the SDGs of leaving no one behind. So you engage with those communities that are furthest left behind. So in the context of North America and the Americas, the people who are furthest left behind are the Indigenous peoples and the most remote communities. So in engaging in the conversation with Indigenous peoples, we're hoping that we can now work with them as partners, not going in there like colonial, right? We're going to work with them as partners so they can engage and understand and learn these programs so they can access them themselves and benefit from these types of programs. So that's another conversation we should have, again, with people like Brian Pupa. Again, there's another person by the name of, so I just recently, I've been keeping him on this network. So he's actually, he calls himself Indigenous Aligned. So he's been supportive of the Indigenous people because he grew up in a community right beside one of these Indigenous, what are they called? The reservations, right? Where many of his friends at school were the Indigenous students from that reservation. So he grew up learning their culture and really having that connection to those people. So that could be an entry point for us to have, again, the conversation around stewardship, around economic development of their communities. So I'd like to ask if anybody else would like to say a few comments as well. Biolenganya Olo from DR Congo and Emmanuel Abuson are both with us today.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm Olo from DR Congo.
Go ahead.
I'm CEO and founder of a community support center, which is a small not-profit organization working with children and women, survivors and the victims of war in eastern part of DR Congo. So I'm new here. I don't know more about your network, but I really appreciate what you said, and I would like to know more and more, or to know how we can partner. Yeah, that is.
Well, if you have not yet left your contact information, in the chat, please do so. Put your contact information. You can share that chat as well. There's 3 little dots at the bottom for yourself, and I do share, or I do save the chat for myself so I can have follow-up conversations and bring other new people into our network. But Emmanuel, did you want to say a few words? And then I will continue actually with my own presentation. So if you want to learn more, I do have many more pages of my own presentation for others to learn more about us.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's evening also here. Good afternoon, good evening. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, great. Thank you so much. My name is Emmanuel Abuson. I'm a Nigerian currently residing in Rwanda, and we have been doing some few work, especially in agriculture in East Africa, Rwanda, and we are setting up. I don't know if it's possible for me to share my slide or to just or I'll just quickly talk about it. So
well, I think, Emmanuel, what we can do, and I've said this as well to Charles, is that if you have some kind of presentation or story to tell, we'll bring you on as a guest speaker at in a future week.
Okay, that'll be fine. That'll be perfect then. Yeah, thank you so much.
So if it's okay, I'd like to move forward as well, and I can continue my own introductory presentation. I did 2 pages first. I do have many more pages, and I could probably go through the entire thing for another hour and a half, but I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But I would like to go through at least a couple more slides, because I did add some additional information to our presentation this week, which I do want to have recorded. So I'm going to share my screen one more time. And for those that would like to continue with us, we will, or I will go through and make sure that people that are new here can understand a little bit more of what we're doing. I mentioned the INAB collaboratives, Interfaith Neighborhood Academic and Business Collaboratives. So this is the slide that kind of goes over that. So what we do in UnityNet through our Drawdown Markham Youth Task Force, done through the work of UnityNet International and our partners in the UnityNet Africa and Diaspora Network, is establish this localized INAB collaboratives. So these Interfaith Neighborhood Academic and Business Collaboratives that are intended to empower our local productive humanitarian entrepreneurs, as we call them, in each of our own local communities. So our goal is to establish a global network of these local INAB collaboratives. So the humanitarian entrepreneurs are the members of these INAB collaboratives, including what we call our Global Partnership for Regenerative Development members. These are the ones who are delivering the practical local regenerative solutions for achieving those global goals, the SDGs. But they do that locally, or as we like to say, globally. So the purpose of the INAB collaboratives is not only to empower the local humanitarian entrepreneurs, but also to help organize the ongoing community engagement, as well as delivering the education and training in the local solutions that are required for local people to understand how to create and run things in their local communities in order to become more resilient, more self-sufficient, and decolonized. To better adapt to climate change, to boost their local economies, to ensure equity, to also ensure that nobody is being left behind in their local communities. So the INAB collaboratives also ensure transparency and accountability. They're the vehicle through which we can demonstrate regenerative finance, where a portion of the monies, of course, are spent in the community, staying in the community, but also where a portion of productive profits from these local regenerative community enterprises are also used to help others in their own local watersheds and bioregions, in order to ensure that nobody is, again, left behind, where some of those funds could also be used for helping others around the world, ensuring that all of our local communities can become eventually self-sufficient and resilient and regenerative. So our ultimate purpose is ensuring that every local community in our network has these INAB collaboratives and a cooperative humanitarian enterprise network that's localizing the global goals, also helping their local communities achieve what we call this localized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So our goal is that by 2030, so we're looking at around 7 years, less than 7 years now to 2030, it will be recognized by those who finance projects in infrastructure or provide things like insurance products, that they're doing, whenever they're doing a local project or infrastructure development in any local community, anywhere on earth, they should not be getting financing until there is one of these active and functional INAV collaboratives in that local community, made up of the community members and their allies globally. So this is essentially what we're doing through our network and the business we're creating. So my name, just so everybody does know, is Lloyd Halferty, co-founder of UnityNet International, which is known as Uni. We're what we call a hybrid holistic practicum learning system management company based here in Canada. We assist community partnership building, both locally where we are, of course, and globally. We like to say locally by leveraging our set of community engagement activities that are developed in partnership with the members of the Ad hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, of which I am one. I'm also the Chief Ecosystem Director and the Program Development Director and Sustainable Society Consultant for Energyme University, which is headquartered in Manhattan, in the US, but I am located in the city of Markham, in the Don River watershed of the Great Lakes, which is the last and lowest of the Great Lakes, Lake Ontario, in the Greater Toronto Bioregion, or GTB, in Southern Ontario, Canada, here in North America, which we call Turtle Island. So Energyme University is a private 501(c)(3) nonprofit company in New York, a member of the UN Global Compact, a UN Academic Impact member, and a partner. It's a virtual university, was created to help empower local populations reestablish a sustainable balance with their local environments. So Energyme does this by designing and implementing projects that support strong and diversified local economies, while integrating these core sustainable technologies and, of course, the infrastructure into these communities in the areas of renewable energy, high-density food growth solutions, and various systems for sustainable and managing local waste streams, protecting local water resources. We are supported by over 375 companies whose products and technologies we employ. So Energyme University, more importantly, supports the education and training in the construction, deployment, and maintenance of all these integrated solutions for achieving these closed loop systems that support self-sufficient, sustainable communities. So I won't go into sort of the extended version of what we do, but I am going to put in to the chat my contact details, so you can connect directly with me. So there is also in the chat that I'm sharing a little bit about what Canada's doing to advance the 2030 agenda, as it's called, the Sustainable Development Goals, which we are attempting, of course, to align with. So Canada's goals are defining, hopefully as well, the goals that corporations are adopting as well, especially in Canada. So there's also a little bit of a reference as well that defines the methodology for education and training of Energyme University. We also have a related network called the Science for Peace Climate Smart Food Consultant Group public network. And actually this is Charles got introduced to this many years ago on our call. He's a member of this network as well through the Science for Peace organization, which also brought on Markham. Then we also have the Climate Smart Food Consulting Group, which is a professional organization of those who would like to move forward on this climate smart food program, which is described again with the links that you find in the chat. And there's also some information about the Science for Peace itself, that organization at the University of Toronto, and our social media that we use for the Community Sustainability Working Group, as we call it, COSWOG. So I do want to go as well and show people our calendar. So this is where we're doing the community engagement through these special events that we do throughout the year. Really, there's only 5 main events. So these are the events coming up. The first one actually is coming up fairly soon. So on April 22nd, this Living Recalendar shows it here in red. So the red events are our main events throughout the year. So May, June, August, October are the main events. And so those 5 key community events, first one being called UNDRIP Day, which is on Earth Day. So that coming up in just a little bit over a week. So we will have a drumming ceremony on Saturday, April 22nd, 9 days away from now. As an update for today as well, for those who might be watching this on Facebook. Although I had earlier heard from Dr. Jose Echeverria at York University, who I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. At that time, he stated that yes, we'll likely do our UnityNet drumming ceremony event at his event that he's holding with the Toronto Black Farmers in Regent Park in Toronto, instead of at Markham City Hall, but hopefully with some Indigenous peoples present as well. So Jose and his team had a meeting that Friday, March 31st, to discuss and arrange it, although I have sent him several text messages and voicemails and emails even over the past week or so. He still hasn't sent me any information about his own birthday event on March 22nd, or made it any final confirmation that we can change the event on our own Eventbrite page. So he's probably very busy, crazy busy, as I call it. We did also have a long weekend this past weekend, of course, for Easter. I had asked Jose, since he is so busy, if he might be possible to have someone else from his team assigned to ours, whoever's organizing the event in Toronto, to be our liaison for coordinating our events. I also suggested that if there are Indigenous people present at his own Earth Day event in Regent Park, that they may wish to take a leadership role in the ceremonies, especially the drumming and the smudging. Hopefully, I'm going to follow up today as well, and try to contact him one more time today, and we can work this out over the next week or so. So, continuing in our calendar, you'll see World Biodiversity Day on Sunday, May 22nd. That's another event in our calendar. I haven't made an event page for this yet. This is new. We haven't done this before, whereas the other events we've done typically already, although we haven't done a drumming event before either. But this is the bright green here. The Abraham Project tree planting on Monday, June 5th, 2023, on World Environment Day here in June. We've done this many times. This is our Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree planting ceremony. And then in August is International Youth Day on Saturday, August 12th, where we do our globally coordinated Bubble Fun festivals during this UnityNet Community Unity Weeks, as we call it. Then there's the Youth Peace Weeks in October, which is our ultimate goal for the year. Starts on Global Cooperation Day, Wednesday, October 4th. Charles should remember that. We did the tree planting in 2019. So this is the date of our Ubuntu Summit, the online virtual event that launches the Youth Peace Weeks, but also the Global Climate Smart Youth Forum, which is our primary hybrid learning week program taking place on in October until Monday, October 16th, which is World Food Day. So you'll also notice that I did add a bunch of pink events on Sunday. These are what's called Somos Avalon Maya, a spiritual event that takes place with the Maya in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, every Sunday at 11:11 a.m. Eastern Time. The events are shown in pink on the calendar. And these are arranged by Mitch Gold, who said earlier to me that he is looking at how to connect the two energies of the eagle and the condor, in other words, the North and the South, or the developed world and the developing world. So the last thing I wanted to mention on this calendar is Tuesday, January 17th, going back to January. You'll see this orange event. We did our first Drawdown Markham virtual event at that time, where we also discussed establishing the local PodNet GTA Enterprise Network, which supports the 25 INAP collaboratives that we intend to create here in the Greater Toronto area. in the past weeks, I also mentioned that here in Markham, in the Greater Toronto area, we'll be doing everything through these INAB collaboratives, including demonstrating regenerative finance, the gardens, the forests, the farms, the buildings, the kitchens, and of course, we'll be empowering our humanitarian entrepreneurs who are localizing these global goals in each of our local communities. So I'd like to ask everyone, join us wherever you are in the world. This is really the essence of the Global Unity Network, what we call our network of networks, which consists of these local and localized multi-stakeholder partnerships, these interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives who are really changing the paradigm of development globally, one community at a time, because what we're doing is flipping the development system on its head. And instead of the top-down development programs where money comes in from the World Bank and others to national governments, and then that's supposed to trickle down to the local communities, a very broken system. We are trying to facilitate direct finance to those on the ground local organizations with the finance directly through the INAB collaboratives. So I also mentioned for the past few weeks that there are other things to consider in our calendar because the FAO came out with their newsletter in January stating that 2023 is the International Year of Millets. So this is something important that some of our members, actually some of our members in India are aligning with this International Year of Millets. COP15 was also mentioned, especially around this meeting that took place in Montreal, the adoption of the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Important because it also established a set of global biodiversity goals. So on top of the SDGs, there are now biodiversity goals to meet. These are new just from this past meeting in December in Montreal. So this was a pretty big meeting. We're hoping to integrate those goals into the new set of goals, the RDGs, as we call them, Regenerative Development Goals, post 2030. We'd like to facilitate that process. So the global biodiversity goals do also need to be translated into national goals in every country, considering each country's circumstances and priorities. So hopefully we'll be able to use Shashidir's plant pots to help facilitate that process of allowing the biodiversity goals to be translated to our classrooms at the local level in our local communities. So I will be putting some of this information that I'm talking about so people can learn more about this into the chat as well. Also important in 2023 SDG Summit, the high-level political forum on sustainable development that will be held under the auspices of the General Assembly to be convened on September 20th or 19th and 20th, 2023. So in our calendar, actually during our Youth Peace Weeks, the 19th and 20th 19th and 20th of September here. In September is this UN General Assembly, where they're gonna gather this year at the headquarters in New York and review the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and those 17 SDGs as they move forward to think about the next set of goals. So this has been added to the calendar because we're hopeful that we'll have a presence at that event, possibly in collaboration with our partners in Manhattan through Energem University and our other partner, We the World, so Rick Olfick as well, who had helped establish the original We Energem Global Cooperation for the island. So you'll find again a number of other links in the chat for those who want to learn more about all of those various things that I just talked about, including the information that was delivered globally around the FAO's newsletter that came out, as I said, in January, as well as this framework for the global biodiversity goals, which are also important considering we are also in what many people call as the Anthropocene, sort of the period of time where there is a global biodiversity. I guess you could say it's a paradigm shift in our global ecosystems that are really trying to adapt to our own presence on this planet. Not doing a good job at it because there is a collapse of ecosystems around the world. But anyway, as we move forward with our legacy projects here in Markham, we have already begun having these local conversations with people. As I mentioned, the 7th Generation Initiative, the 7th Gen Initiative with Dr. Jose Echeverry. He's the leader of the 7th Gen Initiative and the GTV team here in Markham. We also hope to meet with founders, Brian Puppa and Susan Bozap as well. We hope to have conversation with Charles Hopkins. I mentioned this UNESCO chair in reorienting education towards sustainability at York University. We learned on Tuesday, March 21st, during our Drawdown Markham meeting that with Leslie Adams, our Biodiversity and Sustainable Development Goals campaigner from the Sierra Club of Canada Foundation, that it's actually UNESCO that's doing the work of renewal of the SDGs ahead of 2030. She did note that the UNDP development program already has a lot of things in there already, especially related to biodiversity. But I did note before in previous calls that we want to have a conversation with the founders and leaders of the Maple Leaf Center for Action on Food Security as well, because in 2021, Maple Leaf Foods also claimed to be the first major carbon neutral company in the world, and has also set ambitious science-based targets to reduce their carbon emissions even further. This company, Maple Leaf Foods, one of the biggest in the world here in Canada, has already stated their or started their investments in regenerative agriculture, and they represent a significant industry milestone in their words. So today, I had also included in the chat a link to the YouTube video by Michael Kane, as well, President and CEO of Maple Leaf Foods, stating their commitment to become what he calls the most sustainable protein company in the world. So again, you'll find in the chat information about, for instance, connecting to Dr. Jose Echeverry and his own sustainable energy initiative, which links into how do we power our Unity Garden Learning Centers, because we want to be off-grid with renewable energy, powering everything we do in order to demonstrate how we can create our resilient, sustainable, and self-sufficient communities and eco-villages. I see Stephanie Schiller, our Eco-Village Center of Excellence, a leader, is also on our call with us today. And you'll find some of those links again to some of the schools in our community, including York University and their School of Arts, Media, Design. There's also Seneca College, which is literally a very short walk down the road from where I live. I think it's about a 15-minute walk. Their campus is down the road. There's a connection to Susan Bozak from the Legacy Project. She's the one leading that, along with the link to the Maple Leaf Center for Action on Food Security, which says they are, quote unquote, proud to be the world's first major carbon neutral food company. So they're hoping to achieve not just net zero, but hopefully carbon negative in the future. And then there's the GTB Legacy Projects team with Dr. Jose Echeverry. We do also have a WhatsApp discussion group for that as well. One thing I did want to mention before I get off the screen is the second thing that happened just yesterday, and perhaps more important, I'm glad that Stephanie's on the line with us. This is an update for today. I attended an event yesterday here in Markham that was hosted by the Markham Arts Council and as well a group called Markham Talent, where they had a press conference to announce for the second time. I didn't hear about the first one, but what they call the 2023 Open Casting Call, the first ever talent hunt for performing artists in Markham, where the announcement yesterday was a departure from previous calls and where they expanded their call for artists from all across Ontario. So in their own words, performing artists will not be bound by geographical boundaries, and auditions from all cities in Ontario are being accepted. Of course, it's not yet a call for artists outside of Canada or even Ontario yet. Not yet, maybe next year. So they do want to identify performing artists, including singers, dancers, artists, actors, models, musicians, and others who will get an opportunity to showcase their talent to an exemplary panel of judges that includes Juno Award-winning board member Idiri O'Brien, casting director Brian Levy, producer and iDance choreographer and dancing or casting director of The Next Step, Amy Wright, singer-songwriter and iJuno Awards nominee Robert Laidlaw, talent manager Patricia Jarosz, a model agent and eye manager Cynthia Cully, the Dean of York University School of Arts, Media, Production and Design, Dr. Sarah Bei Chung, actress Samantha Aucoin, Toronto's top runway coach Jessica Gregory, actor Lucas Nguyen, and chalet studio owner David Chest. So that's their board of judges. They also have many prizes, including cash prizes for the winners. Most importantly, yesterday I had a good conversation with the personal assistant of Amanda Young Colucci, who's Ward 6 counselor here in Markham, who organized the event that took place yesterday, and also introduced me to Amanda, who I also explained to her what we're doing. So Councillor Colucci indicated that she would definitely like to follow up with more discussions, probably after May 1st. I talked to many other people, including the UnityNet Community Unity Garden Learning Center's concept. And I told them about what we're doing and the fact that we would like to approach the development of these centers through engagement with local and global artists and through community-to-community partnerships. And I was absolutely floored by the almost overwhelmingly positive response I received from almost everyone, and hope that to also have a follow-up with at least one member person that I had talked to, and that is Toronto's top runway coach, Jessica Gregory, who's also a model, but is a modeling coach, especially for young people who are new to modeling, acting, and performance. In particular, I'd like to invite Jessica to have a conversation with Janice De Silva in Cabo Verde about her One Dress, One Smile initiative to promote cultural exchange and global solidarity through fashion. So I'll also invite her and her colleagues to join and promote the UnityNet Fashion Cultural Exchange Network, which was originally created with Janice, one of our key AHIABGA Goodwill ambassadors, who's also promoting the adoption of the open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure and the humanitarian enterprise solutions through her connections with UN Habitat. So I'll be sending out an email in introduction to Toronto's top runway coach, Jessica Gregory, as a follow-up to our discussion yesterday. I'll also copy Amanda Young Colucci, Ward 6 Councillor here in Markham, who organized yesterday's event and the City of Markham's first ever talent hunt for performing artists across all of Ontario. So we can have a discussion about establishing that first UnityNet Community Unity Garden Learning Center and Unity Hub, perhaps as a UnityNet Peace Center right here in Markham, by establishing the Markham INAV Collaborative and partnering with the local corporations and the SMEs in Markham, or whatever companies or organizations we'd like to establish Canadian offices here to assist in this process of partnering with other local INAV collaboratives globally, so we can all begin to this long process of localizing the global goals and achieving this goal of a globalized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So I am in the chat, including a new reference to the UnityNet Unity Arts Network and the UnityNet Fashion Cultural Exchange Network as well. There is also a reference to the websites of Amanda Colucci, our regional ward councillor in Ward 6 of Markham, and the Markham 2023 open casting call, this talent hunt for performing artists. So there's a link to as well their silver sponsor, which we're hoping to talk to as well, the School of Rock here in Markham, which was their sponsor, which they already have a global network of rock schools, so we can potentially even tap into that existing school network of cultural ambassadors around the world who have this presence in Markham. So again, today is Thursday, April 13th. It's not a special day in the UN calendar or anything. The next big events in April are, of course, I mentioned earlier, Earth Day, or International Mother Earth Day, also referred now as UNDRIP Day on Saturday, April 22nd, which of course is our UnityNet drumming ceremony. You'll find a link to Earth Day Canada in the chat. We also note a new day in our calendar that we should add. One day before that is World Creativity and Innovation Day on Friday, April 21st, which is one day before Earth Day. So that's shown in this orange color here on our calendar. So it is another day that hopefully in the future, even though we have nothing really in our own calendar for that day this year, we may be able to do some additional events next year. I'm also putting in the chat a link to the World Creativity and Innovation Day links, especially the wciw.org, which allows you to search for events in your own country by community and see what events are taking place, what cultural events are taking place in your local community that you can connect to and meet people who are doing these cultural events. So the days as well I want to mention that are not recognized in our UN calendar, fun events to consider celebrated in our personal lives. Our April holidays and observances. Again, there's a link to the network where I found this information, or the website, where today, again, Thursday, April 13th, is also National Make Lunch Count Day, which they call an exciting day to celebrate the value of taking a break from work and enjoying a nutritious and delicious lunch. So it's important for us because, of course, we are promoting climate smart food through our CSF program of Science for Peace. There's also, today is National Scrabble Day, where April 13th every year marks the birth of Scrabble inventor Alfred Mosher Butts, who created the game and has become an icon worldwide, with over 150 million copies of Scrabble having been sold around the world. Today is also International Plant Appreciation Day, which can be traced back to the early 21st century, when a group of botanists, gardeners, and environmental enthusiasts came together to raise awareness about plants and the important role they play in our lives. So this is a good day, of course, because our presentation today was about these pots and how they can be used to facilitate learning. So the fact that today is International Plant Appreciation Day is also something that we can perhaps work with Shashindir to do something for next year on this particular day, every day on the April 13th. We could perhaps have something where we highlight the work that he's doing in his network on this special day. So the annual celebration is also serving as a reminder to people to appreciate the natural world and protect the beauty that surrounds us before it is too late. Today, finally, also is National Peach Cobbler Day. Maybe a little less aligned with what we're doing, but this is the day to indulge in that traditional dessert, peach cobbler, normally made with fresh peaches and topped with a buttery and crumbly crust. Celebrating peach cobbler is an American classic, even though it does come from early European settlers from Europe. So again, in the chat, you'll find those links to National Make Lunch Count Day, National Scrabble Day, International Plant Appreciation Day, which I think, again, as I said, is a potentially very important event for a guest speaker who will move forward to do something through UnityNet every year. We're also still planning, again, as I mentioned last week as well, to have a conversation, a discussion with Sir Bailey from youthbuildcharter.org, Michael Rendler from the C4 Group, our Climate Smart Community Construction Collaborative, where we hope to also talk with Lynn Crandall, Marcela Oliva, and Isaac Sibakije about the next Earth Fest, which is also in planning, where we hope to also co-host this hybrid event with our UnityNet, GTA, and PodNet partners, and all the Wikibot collaborators, where we hope this event will also help spark the imagination of young people, teachers, and their parents and elders who are working with the local schools and the local learners here in Markham York Region and the Greater Toronto area, who can be empowered to take action through the Global Sister Schools program that I stated earlier, starting with the planting of the Youth Peace Gardens, where we also hope to work in close collaboration with all the members of UnityNet Ontario and UnityNet Canada, including the co-founder of the Indigenous Global Unity Network, of course. This is the IGU Summit. So this was started by Michael Schur, who's here in Vaughan, in the Greater Toronto area, who'd like us to begin having a conversation about practical reconciliation, starting with the development of a curriculum related to his Indigenous Unity flag. Specifically, we want to establish a legacy education project and do it in solidarity with Indigenous peoples, possibly also with Scouts Canada and Scouts Europe, hopefully with more partners like Rotary International, as they seek to implement their Indigenous Unity badge for the young people who are participating in their programs. We also want to potentially create a UnityNet badge as well, but that curriculum can always come later, and where we can partner with local schools, especially the schools of arts and schools of architecture in our local communities. So again, at the university and college, but also with the high schools, if they want more hands-on programs. So working with our network of networks to host a series of virtual and in-person charrettes. We want to help Michael and Scouts come up with this curriculum, hopefully over the next few months, where the curriculum would help young people to understand that every country has their own Indigenous peoples, and that we must become compassionate members of a global society of humans as an essential part of a process of real reconciliation, where the key people we have for these projects are the members of our Unity Learning Network and the Global Sister Schools program, and others who may wish to contribute to this process and efforts. So I'm seeing it is about 12:48. Andrew had asked me at the beginning of this session if I could make sure that it's under 2 hours. So since we started at 11, it was actually 10 after 11. So we have about 20 minutes. I am showing this sort of as a last slide. This is our first event coming up, as I mentioned, on Saturday, April 22nd. So this is where we're planning to do drumming at city halls with Indigenous peoples. So I'm hoping to have a conversation with Stephanie after to see if we can at least have a few drummers show up at that event, even if they aren't Indigenous peoples, depending on whether we can get in touch with Jose and confirm if we can do our event down in Toronto. So there is also a conversation we can potentially have with this gentleman in Toronto that I'm hoping to as well have a discussion with, who's been supporting us as well in trying to move forward I forget his name right now, but I'll follow up with that for sure. There's also a discussion eventually around getting some posters so we can display them at the events that we like to do at what they call the Climate Solutions Parks that York University is setting up all across the southern Ontario, actually all the way into Quebec. He's already pointed out that they have, I believe, 4 or 5 different sites to demonstrate these various solutions. One in Toronto, actually 2 in Toronto, one in downtown Toronto, one up in North York, another one, of course, at the new York University campus here in Markham, but another one up in Owen Sound, up near Georgian Bay, and this last one in Quebec that so far I know of. We are hoping, of course, to have more of these sites where we can demonstrate these really practical, real-world infrastructure solutions that can help to create the Unity Garden learning centers that we would like to create. So this drumming event at City Halls, it's intended to be at City Hall. That's where it's now listed in our Eventbrite page. But again, this might change. The event you'll see in the link that I just saved there. This Markham City Hall is the venue, although we changed to downtown. This will be announced to all of the members of our network, both within the WhatsApp groups as well as the Facebook and LinkedIn groups. So this event, Drumming at City Halls, it's intended to engage with students at local schools, start planning and building their youth peace gardens in their in their own communities, in their own whether it's at their schools or in the communities, in the parks, or with the various partners of our network at small and medium-sized businesses, or even at these corporations' headquarters. So we use this event as well to promote the rest of our events, including the IGU summits and these networks we have, and then try to get young people, schools and teachers and parents and grandparents, especially from our region, engaged in these conversations we're having in UnityNet. Engage with the schools, engage with the teachers and their families, perhaps create a competition and related learning program to design their own bubble fund machines. So our goal is to have a few working bubble fund machines by August, created by these entrepreneurial students from some of these high schools in our region. So this is actually one of the goals, of course, is to get that practical hands-on learning. We can start, of course, with the pots and the plantings, but that can be only one of the various curriculum that can be developed where we can really get this practical, real-world, hands-on learning in their own local communities. So it's called Work Integrated Learning, or WIL, and it can actually be done in almost at any grade and level, different ages, depending on what you might call work, right? Planting a seed in a pot could be called work, but it's also could be called play, which is actually what Stephanie's major is all about. It's about integrating modes of learning that include play. So we're not just learning from sitting in a classroom. We're actually learning by doing and learning by playing with our families, with our neighbors, and with the other members of our community who are with us to facilitate our learning journeys as we try to unlearn many of the things that we've been taught through the institutional school systems. So as we have about 5 minutes left, I do want to finish at 1 o'clock if possible. I'd like to ask if there are any other comments or things that people might wish to say. In particular, I'd like to ask Stephanie if she's available to unmute and introduce herself as well. And if not, perhaps Galgalo. I see you are also on the call with us as well, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Hi there. Hi, it's
Hello,
Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Thank you, Lloyd, for your presentation. Really informative, and UnityNet is certainly growing and making all kinds of relationships with the important, all the important people at the grassroots level and at the local and global levels to coordinate the changes that need to happen. My name is Stephanie Schuler, and I'm based in the Greater Toronto Area, Canada. And right now, actually, I'm listening to one of our national radio stations as well, the CBC, Canadian Broadcast Company, and they're talking about children with autism, with this different differentials and regarding ability and inability. And typically in Canada, they're separated from the school program, not only in separate, even in separate schools. And one of the things that's really important to UnityNet and really important to MAP, Maui Aloha Project, the intentional living, learning, and well-being communities that I'm a co-founder for, is that there be truly inclusive communities. Our school system, I'm completing my doctorate at the University of Toronto in OISE in education right now. And it has to do with labeling, which is a construct that we've created in this society. And saying that someone is meeting what needs to be done and someone else is not. Someone is less than, is not measuring up. And I think it's really important that what UnityNet is trying to do, along with MAP, are support inclusive communities, support that all human beings are wonderful and valuable and should be loved and shouldn't be judged by which strengths and weaknesses, how we rate, competition, and that school's only about creating a future workforce, but childhood and being a human being, we all have capabilities to participate in our sustainable well-being, and that all should be included, and that by being in inclusive environments, we all learn from each other on all levels holistically, and we all develop. And the point of our existence is that we should we coexist, and that's what UnityNet is about. And MAP is the actual living smart communities in cities or in or in the country, but they're about communities that engage together, that celebrate everybody's identities and everybody's multi-literacies without judgment, and with only going forward together with mentors and with all people participating in all systems of the society, just like all of the Indigenous communities of the world always have. All members have been included in the systems of the community, and so many systems in place there, such as play and ceremony and honoring the seasons and honoring the food, and knowing the systems for food security and caring for housing security for everybody. And we've got to go back to those systems. We've got to garner all of the ancient wisdoms of all the cultures, all the regions in the world, and we're doing that. And that's what UnityNet is doing, going back to the ancient and also new regenerative ways to live, and being able to circulate that and share that and empower communities with all of the strengths that we have and all of the knowledges that we have, so that everyone can have enough, and everyone even maybe can have enough, more than enough, and well-being should be paramount in society, our housing and food security, and our social well-being. So Lloyd, I thank you for your dedication to this. This is, to me, all of the people who come and show up for all of these projects, UnityNet International, MAP, Maui Aloha Project, and so many other wisdom keepers in the world, new and old processes. This is really important because the systems are really shot, and they're competitive systems, and cooperatively we're all one, and cooperatively we can put it together. We live in a time of great ability and great human ability, and you're showing up is a conscious decision, and my showing up is a conscious decision, and all of us showing up, putting our puzzle pieces together, there's hope. And that's what UnityNet is all about, and that's why we're doing this every Thursday, UnityNet, this Indigenous Global Summit, because we want to rise up all of the Indigenous knowledges and for community well-being and planetary well-being. We're all one relation, and that's why we're showing up, and we welcome all of the wisdoms and learning the old ways which should be new again. Thanks, Lloyd.
Thank you, Stephanie. So it is now 1 o'clock, and I'm going to finish up just by showing a little card here. This is actually what I picked up yesterday. So there's free rock lessons if you want to go to the School of Rock here in Markham to get a free lesson for their very unique teaching program. I just wanted to flash that on the screen to say I would hope to have a conversation with them as well, as I mentioned earlier. So again, this is now 1 minute after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We're approaching 2 hours on our IGU Summit this week. Again, this is Lloyd Halferty from the Indigenous Global Unity Network. So this is week 97 of our IGU Summit. So this is, again, these are recorded every week and broadcast, of course, on Facebook and all the social media channels of the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors and the rest of Andrew Network's channels, and shared among all of our network as well. So thank you, Shashidhar, for doing the presentation with us. We will definitely have some follow-up conversations to have.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Those follow-up conversations might mostly happen after Earth Day, because we are, again, in 9 days. So I've been spending a lot of my days just promoting those events through our network. So that keeps me quite busy.
We'll be in touch. Yeah.
But we'll if we can connect on WhatsApp and follow up to make sure that we integrate your programs so we can roll them out globally.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. So
bye-bye.
Have a good Thursday, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you.
Yeah.